Many times business entrepreneurs, they just think they have a passion for something and, they build it and they will come. You know what? I don't need to sell this. It will sell itself. And that is completely not accurate. You need to be the best salesman in your entire organization as an entrepreneur. Sales and marketing, in fact, those two skill sets are invaluable.
Welcome to the Fitness CEO Podcast.
Hey friends, welcome back. My name is Bryce Henson. For those of you new to the show, I am the Fitness CEO, and I am pumped up today for another solo episode. And today, the topic of this episode, which I want to teach on, is you are now ready to open your own business. But what's next? What are the few things that you need to be doing to take action and put yourself in a situation that will better the probability that you'll be wildly successful out of the gate? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And as I was putting together this episode, I was thinking back on my own journey. And when I first opened my first fitness business and first business endeavor for that matter, and for those of you new to the show, I launched in 2012. So over a decade from the time of the recording, which is wild to me. And when I opened, I did a bunch of research and diligence. And previously, I went through my own fitness transformation, fell in love with fitness. I got the physique I was looking for, dropped 20 pounds of body fat, put on 20 pounds of lean muscle. But way more than that, it changed my life. And that's why I'm so passionate about fitness, because it's the foundation for a better future. In fact, even from a business perspective, prior to opening my own fitness business, I was in the sales industry. And as I went through my transformation, I went from the least performing sales rep in the company all the way to the highest performing sales rep in the company within a 12-month clip. And there was one thing that changed, and it was my fitness. It was about leading myself, investing myself in my physique, but also the mental fortitude and the mindset, training that goes along with it. So I was able to really transform my mind, body, and soul. And that's really what gave me the vigor and the excitement to launch my own fitness business. And I knew for a very long time, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to have a bigger impact. I was meant for something more. These are things that were always ingrained in me at some sort of level. And as I started taking action and building more confidence, they became more clear. So this all to say, a few years later after that transformation, I got on Bedros' Koulian email list because I updated my Facebook profile as certified personal trainer. And I started receiving ads about how to start a business and launch a fitness business and get better client results and retention and all the bells and whistles and all the things that are really important from a business context. And in early 2012, I knew, this was the time. So I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to this little thing called Fit Body Bootcamp, which is a licensee program that was transferring into a franchise system. And I did all the diligence I possibly could. And being I was in Southern California, where our headquarters is also located, which made it very convenient. But in the summer of 2012, I believe around August timeframe, I ended up coming out to Chino Hills, met the headquarters team of the Fit Body franchise that I was exploring. And after a 5-minute conversation with Bedros, boom, I knew this is exactly what I want to do. Off to the races. I was meant for something more. I was meant for impact. I want to help. I want to serve. And of course, create more impact and create more income in the process. So that was the vision. And off I went. And this is, a few years after the Great Recession, for those of you who can remember this. So things were getting better from an economic perspective. However, they still weren't fully solved, which is a good thing. There was an opportunity, which recessions actually create the biggest opportunity for market share growth. And I think there's a valuable lesson to be known there. So this all in mind, there was a lot more vacancies in terms of real estate than definitely later on in the decade, for sure. So that lended itself. And I was leaning on my franchise business coach, a guy named Fernando, have had on the show, I think in the first, 6 months of episodes. So shout out to you, Fernando. I'll be referring to you, and highly encourage you to check out that episode as well. But, at the time I was leaning on Fernando in terms of, the build out and the territory mapping and trying to find location. And it took me about 6 weeks or so, which was really quick in the grand scheme of things, but I found this property and I thought, okay, this is it. The stars align. This is my building. This is where going to be my first fitness business. And I was so excited, but also so sad when I came to find out that it was not zoned for a fitness center. So I would not be able to get a CUP, or certificate of occupancy. So I was really bummed at that when I found that out. But, I reloaded. I have a resilient mindset. So I leaned back into my conversation with Fernando and, went back to the drawing board and, connected with the real estate partner that we were assigned and started, doing more diligence. And this time, I thought I found the perfect spot. I thought it didn't work out that way. So I was still ambitious to look for another spot, but I was just running up into a lot of challenges, even though the real estate market was a little bit open, but the city that I was aiming for, a little town called Anaheim Hills, which is, just adjacent to Disneyland out in Orange County, California. It's a smaller area, and there wasn't that many retail shops where I could open a business. So I was hitting a dead end, and I reached back out to my Fernando, to my franchise business coach, and I said, "Hey, Fernando, I'm hitting a dead end. I thought I found the spot. Is there any other recommendations you have?" And he said, "Well, if we've explored all these areas in I guess, within this territory, I have an idea. There's an adjacent spot, a little town called Yorba Linda, just on the other side of the freeway, and also has a great demographic. I think this would be great for a Fit Body Bootcamp. All the metrics and the territory analysis works out. I would highly encourage you to start looking there. We can transfer the territory." So I took action as coaching. I ended up transferring my territory to Yorba Linda and kept on with that resilient mindset. And a few weeks turned into about 4 to 6. And then finally, I found what I thought and what it would end up being my location that I launched and had for over 10 years before I sell it, which was just absolutely amazing. But my friend, that's not where the story stops by any stretch of the imagination. So I got the lease signed. I was excited, ready for the build out, getting all the things ready to launch the business. So then I apply for the certificate of occupancy and then also the certificate or the CUP, which I can't remember what the analogy means for, but it's not only do you have to have a certificate of occupancy when you're launching a business, but specifically because of the usage of fitness, many times landlords want to make sure that also in cities as well, that it has the proper zoning for the fitness center. So the good news was it was properly zoned, but I had to go to the city in order to file the official application and make sure that it was officially approved. So I put all the application, the paperwork, hired the architect and all that, and off I went to the city for the approval, and they do one hearing on a monthly basis. At least that's what it was in the city that I was operating in or about to launch in. And I'll never forget, there was a bunch, probably 10 or 15 cases before me, and they went about 5 or 10 minutes. And there was a court hearing and all the chamber or the members, if you will, the city council. And finally, I stand up and I make my petition. I'm excited to change lives and inspire fitness and just do all the things to help our community with their health and fitness. And just as the application was about to go through, you will never believe the neighbor that was had a lease in the adjoining building shows up and petitions against me, wanting to turn down my application to open the business. And I'm thinking, you got to be joking. Like, after all this, investing my life savings, having a run around in this area for, the better part of a few months, trying to find all these territories. I thought I found one. It wasn't zoned correctly. Now I found the quote unquote perfect spot, and this guy is going to try to take my dreams away. But I was not having that, my friend. I didn't come this far just to come this far. So I put the brakes on that, and I just, with my whole heart, I explained the obesity epidemic. I explained the big, factors affecting health and fitness, not only in our community, but our nation, for that matter, in our world. And with some passion, with enthusiasm, sold my case, and ultimately I was able to get approved, and off to the races I went. So, that's just, give you some examples of the trials and tribulations that any business owner is going to encounter. So off to the races in terms of, getting my pre-launch ready to go. And from a marketing perspective, and giving myself, some space, if you will. Back in 2012, Fit Body, our franchise, was not nearly developed what it is today in terms of the systems, the operations support, the marketing efforts. But just that makes a lot of sense. It was in the first infancy year of being a franchise. Over the last decade, we've built out so much more support, which has been absolutely incredible. And this is why our new owners are launching with over 100 members, as we have that guarantee, which is, I guess, a little side note. But that all said, the marketing plan wasn't fully built out. I also had the mentality, though, build it and they will come, which could not be farther from the truth. So I took action in a lot of different ways, and I did some, neighboring events. I went to a Red Cross blood drive, and I did a few things. I did not do all the things, though, which is a big learning lesson in the process. And when I opened the doors on a very cold, rainy morning, on November 5th, 2012, we had a dozen free trials who joined session, and I'll never forget. I'll always remember this, is what I was meant to say. My wife, Tatiana, my sister, Emma, I asked them for the first week to come to every single session, both morning and afternoon, just so the boot camp seemed full, because there was only a dozen clients for all the session of free trial. And of course, we had some referrals, but also in hindsight, when I look back, opening November 5, which is on the, staring at the barrel of the American Thanksgiving and also the holiday season, no matter where you are turning into the world, but specifically in North America, it's just about, approaching late fall, winter time frame. People are typically not overly excited to start fitness programs, right as they head into the holiday season. So I was stacking the deck against me from a timing perspective. But off we went. I ran some sessions, but I felt money strapped. I felt on one hand super excited, and that happened for the first few weeks. But as like Thanksgiving and early December ran through, like there wasn't enough traction, and I was taking some action, but not taking all the action I need from a marketing lens. And I was definitely getting frustrated. And as the weeks kind of turned on and holidays were here, and past Christmas and New Year's, I was really kind of changing my sights. I was running out of money. I was also not as confident as I needed to be. And this is my first year of business. So, with having a few amount of people in sessions, it just wasn't, the vision was not going initially as I expected to, especially after the facade or the newness wore off. But I knew that New Year's was around the corner. And of course, being in the industry, even professionally, that was my first year, but 5 years previously, I got fit. And we just know this to be true. People want to have strong New Year's resolutions. So I knew, or I was at least hoping there was going to be a wave of people coming. And that's what I was, benchmarking my last effort, if you will, to turn the corner, to get the business back on track, even though I'd only been open a couple months. And, just after New Year's, I wait for the first week of January, and then still flat. I had a few referrals come in, but it was nothing to write home about. And the second week of January rolls through, and more of the same. There was a few people that trickled in, but it was far from the big rush of New Year resolutions that I was expecting. And at that point, I reached back out to my business coach, Fernando, at HQ, and I have a freak out moment. I'm like, Fernando, I've come all this way, but just things are not, shaping out. I thought there would be a big New Year's rush right now. We had so many issues in terms of permitting, unforeseen things that, depleted some financial resources. My clients, my sessions are not full as they need to be. I was, granted, open during a very challenging time. But at this point, we're second week of January. I thought there'd be a lot of traffic coming through with some of the referral marketing and some of the advertisements that I put out, but it's almost like crickets, like what is going on? I'm in a freak out moment. And Fernando is a great business coach and a great dude. Is like, hey, Bryce, let's take a time out for a second. Take a deep breath. Let's get out in front of this. I want to schedule a few-hour meeting with you on a Saturday morning after your session, and we just go through where you're at, look at your numbers, and also, too, examine some of your marketing strategies and figure out, okay, what we can do to course correct this. Saturday morning comes. I run the one session that we had, and I meet with Fernando, who ended up bringing Bedros as well, who Bedros. He's a regular feature on the show, the founder of Fit Body Bootcamp, a massive influence and an incredible business coach. And he was there as well, wanted to pour some support and love, because I think they both could see the fire in my eyes, or the light in my eyes, the fire in my belly, my ambition, my desire to, be really successful, but also I was kind of in my own way and not following some of the coaching. So they wanted to pour into me a little bit. And after a couple-hour meeting of examining my business, they gave me the direction I need. They pointed me the direction from a marketing strategy perspective, and I took action. And that was really the call to action afterwards. But after that two-hour meeting of giving me the blueprint, I left that meeting and just like got a bat out of hell. I was like, this is what I need to do successful. I'm going to take action. Over the next 60 days, I did. And of course, we got some more tailwinds. As it turns out, unbeknownst at the time, the biggest season, especially for a coaching and New Year's or a coaching business in the fitness industry, is actually towards the end of January. February and March are the biggest months. There's always a little bit of a hangover after the holidays, especially with our type of clientele at Fit Body Bootcamp, the type of clientele that I was training, were typically moms and dads, Mrs. Jones, Mr. Jones, who have a couple kids. So there's always a little time to get their kids back to school after the holidays, and also a little bit of the holiday hangover, the Christmas spending and all that. So realistically, the gym business and specifically, the group training business doesn't get really busy until end of January. February and March, by far the best months. I didn't know that. So I had caught a little tailwind. Of course, I took massive action. And as they say, the rest is history. And looking back over the last decade, I certainly have had many ups and downs for sure, but ended up that location was a massive success. Ended up bringing my family on board, scaled to 4 more locations, totaling 5 locations over the following 6 years. Brought my wife, my sister, my brother, my mom, made it a family affair. Ended up working and aligning with HQ, becoming the vice president, and then eventually the CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp. So in the grand scheme of things, when I look back at that freak out moment, it all worked out for me in hindsight. But I don't want that freak out moment to happen to you. And that's really the essence of this show. So when I put together some topics or the subject matter about, you're about ready to launch your own business, this is, it's about to be game time. What are the things proactively you can do? I wanted to start there just to show you some of where I was when I started the business journey, so you can avoid some of those things. Hey there, my name is Bryce Henson, CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp, and you might know me as the host of this podcast, but what you might not know is that I started my fitness business journey as a Fit Body location owner. And since 2012, I've been able to impact my community while creating financial freedom, both for myself and my family too. You see, by using Fit Body's proven business model, we give you all the support and guidance you need to be your own boss and build a business that aligns with your passion for fitness. And being we are the absolute best at launching and scaling our franchise partners' gyms, we are now excited to announce our 100 member guarantee. Now you might be thinking, Bryce, what is that? Well, we are so confident that we'll launch your Fit Body Bootcamp location with well over 100 paying members from day one on your grand opening that if we don't, we'll run your marketing till we do. That's how confident we are in our ability to support you and guide you through this process. So if you're interested in creating more income through impact, click the link somewhere around this video to apply. This all in mind, the few things I have 4 things that you need to get your mind around in order to be successful. And that's whether it's a fitness business, that's whether it's a fit body business, that's whether it's any type of business. These certainly pointers will serve you well. So first and foremost, number 1 is figure out what your passion is and go all in on your passion. And far more than woo-woo type of advice, this is actually very practical advice. The fact is, doesn't matter what business you are in, doesn't matter, whether it be fitness, whether it be service-based, doesn't matter. The odds are stacked against you. The forces of nature, the forces of challenge of running a successful business, the laws of physics of entropy make it really challenging, whatever business endeavor. Business and life is tough, my friends. So you have to have passion to carry you through the tough times. And especially at the beginning, there are going to be way more tough times than good. So a very practical piece of advice is you need to understand and follow your passion. Whatever business adventure you're trying to pursue, you have to have passion for it. Now, if you're thinking, okay, well, maybe I'm not that passionate of a person, which I've heard many times over, I want to encourage you to look at pain points that you've resolved in your life, because pain is typically a good indicator of where future growth is needed and then future passion resides. So for me, I was a chubby kid growing up. That was my pain point. I was about 15, 20 pounds of body fat, overweight, very little skeletal muscle on my body, all through my grammar school, high school, and through college, all the way into my early adult years. So I lacked confidence and energy and enthusiasm. And because of that was a very painful situation in my life. So because of that pain and overcoming that pain through fitness, that's what created the passion. So, that's a little bit of a coaching moment to identify and develop your passions. But you got to be passionate about whatever business venture you go in, because life in business is too tough if you're not animated, if you're not motivated, if you're not inspired, if you're not passionate to overcome the obstacles that will certainly occur. Bullet point number 2 is you have to learn and value direct response marketing and have an understanding, a healthy appreciation for sales. So for me, as I shared earlier, I was in the sales industry. In fact, I became very good at sales. So I was very confident from a salesmanship perspective. If I got a lead, that I can convert them into a client. So I felt good there, but many times business entrepreneurs, they just think they have a passion for something and, they build it and they will come. As I mentioned earlier, that is wrong and bad advice. Also, sometimes, people that are very creative, that have a passion product think that, hey, you know what? I don't need to sell this. It will sell itself. And that is completely not accurate. You need to be the best salesman in your entire organization as an entrepreneur. Sales and marketing, in fact, those 2 skill sets are invaluable. So from a salesmanship perspective, you need to understand and start learning sales. And sales is about learning about human nature. There are some strategies. It's not about being a fast-talking salesman. There are weapons of influence. In fact, there's a book called Influence by Dr. Cialdini. It talks about 6 weapons of influence that are just mission critical to understand human nature so you can be a better salesperson. So I want to start there. Additionally, from a marketing perspective, there are 3 major things that you need to start studying and get good at from a marketing lens. Number 1, you need to learn how to grab attention. Let's face it, there's a lot of attention, there's a lot of noise in the market space, so you need to get ready to get some attention and grab it from a marketing lens, as I'm just all fired up throwing my notes here. But that is really important from a marketing perspective. Number two, you need to learn how to provide value and educate, which is really, really important from a marketing lens, to be able to be good at educating and talking about the product and service that you offer, because you need to educate your clients on why your particular product or service will solve a pain point. So that's really, really important in this process. And the third aspect of marketing is you need to be able to produce and create awesome, irresistible offers. And those three components, and there's many more you need to be able to learn sales copy and influence and persuasion and understanding human nature. I mean, there's a lot of skill sets involved in this, but no matter what, when you're about to take the leap of faith, and even prior to that, I would highly encourage you to be a student of sales and be a student of marketing. And that is inclusive, even if you join an awesome franchise like FitBody, or if you don't, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you still need to be sales and marketing focused, because I can tell you with insight of coaching hundreds of business owners throughout the last decade, the most successful business owners are the ones who have a healthy appreciation, respect, and a white belt mentality for learning and understanding sales and marketing. So that would be bullet point number 2. Bullet point number 3 is you need to decide what problem you want to solve and who you want to solve it to or for. Now, this sounds so basic, but you would never believe how many times I consult with, aspiring entrepreneurs or people that want to launch businesses, and they have an idea like a product or service, but they don't actually reverse engineer what's the specific problem you're going to solve for your client. And then additionally, for who are you going to solve that problem to? And it sounds basic, and I'll use fitness as an example because I'm in the fitness space. But if you look at it, there are a lot of types of modalities for fitness. There are yoga, there's running, there's bicycling, there's CrossFit, there's Olympic weightlifting, there's circuit training like we do here at FitBody, and the list goes on. So all those particular modalities or services, they solve a different pain point. Now for me, I was insecure because I wanted a little bit of muscle on my body, but I also wanted to burn fat. So for me, circuit training was a big call to action and something I was excited about for me personally. And that's what really impacted my own fitness level. If I was trying to gain 50 or 60 pounds of muscle, then I would have probably been more attracted to Olympic weightlifting programs. So it matters what problem you're trying to solve. It's important to understand that before you just go out launching a business. Additionally, now that you know the product that you want to solve, okay, and again, I use 5 different modalities in fitness that are solving different pain points within the fitness industry, but then you got to ask yourself, who do you want to solve that problem for? And for me, when I was 27, 28, something like that at the time, I thought I was going to be training, guys because that's who I was. But what I realized was the market in health and fitness is specifically in circuit training, young dudes who are like 22 to 25 don't have a ton of money to be able to pay for personal training. So it made a lot more sense to shift to an avatar we call Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones, who are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. They're professionals. They're in their career, and they have some funding in order to be able to purchase our product and service. So it's really important you understand with complete clarity who you're marketing to, because that message is so important. I'll give you an example of this. So this is a new program, and I say new loosely with quotes, but a couple years ago, I want to say around 2020, 2021, that we launched as a value add to our program called FitBody Forever. And FitBody Forever was a program originally, the education base was designed and supported by Functional Aging Institute by 2 PhDs, Dr. Cody Sipe and Dr. Dan Ritchie, 2 close friends. And my good dear friend, Stephen Hadley, who's also a franchise partner. So this is years ago. We went to a conference funded through Functional Aging Institute, and we learned about the demographic of mature aging adults, people that are 55 and better, if you will. So in their 60s and 70s and sometimes even early 80s. Now that is a program that's massively underserved. And if you take a step back, the baby boomer population is just a massive demographic. We're getting older. They have the most wealth in our country. We're embarking on the biggest wealth transfer of all time, and there's a huge opportunity there to serve that type of client. Now, as you would imagine, the difference from training a 22-year-old doing CrossFit to a 65-year-old doing a functional aging exercise, both in fitness, but both completely different problems to be solved. The young dude probably wants to get 6-pack abs, chiseled, sculpted body, so he has more confidence. where the 65-year-old client wants to have more mobility and functionality to be able to travel and take that trip, with their family or play with their grandkids. Again, all in fitness, but completely different pain points we're solving in completely different demographic or avatar, as we say in the marketing space. So it is mission critical before you start launching any business to understand what problem you're solving and who you're solving it for. So that is number 3. And when I put together this episode, I had 3 of these big points in mind. But you know what? I wanted to lead with extra value and give you some extra credit, which would be something that I hold near and dear to me, which has been a game changer in my business career. Are you ready? It's hiring a coach who's been there, who's done that, who has already achieved what you want to achieve. And my friends, I know that's mind-blowing, but it is the truth. And you would never believe how many people just jump into business models, either themselves or partners, that have no experience or no insight into the industry that they're entering in, which is mind-boggling to me. Mind-boggling. Or what's even worse is looking for business advice from people who are not successful at business, which is freaking mind-boggling, but it's factory installed in human nature. And I'll give you an example of this. From a solution-oriented perspective, I look at this as the language framework, okay? Now, for those of you new to the show, I ended up moving to Brazil back in 2010. I lived there for a couple of years, and I met my wife there, who came back to California, and she runs my location here at Fit Body Bootcamp, or my location. I still am an owner. She oversees that location. And she, coming from Brazil, she speaks Brazilian Portuguese as her first language. She ended up learning English fluently as well. But if you were to want to inquire and learn Brazilian Portuguese, she would be an amazing person for you to consult and ask questions, because she dominates Brazilian Portuguese, and she can teach that to you because she inherently knows that. She's an subject matter expert in Brazilian Portuguese. Now, that in mind, if you're trying to learn Mandarin Chinese, as much as I love my wife, she's an amazing soul, beautiful gal, and extremely smart, bilingual. At the end of the day, she does not know Mandarin Chinese, so it would be a very bad piece of advice to consult her to learn Mandarin Chinese. Now, I know that sounds like an extreme example, but so many times people consult people, maybe it's their spouse or their parents or their mom or their dad or their sibling or, an uncle or an aunt that has no success in business. Maybe, and this is no disrespect, maybe they're a secretary or making minimum wage. Okay, that's fine. If that fills that person's cup, awesome. But if you're an entrepreneur wanting to make millions and tens of millions of dollars, and you're getting business advice and consulting advice from someone who makes $30,000 to $40,000 a year, I say this with love and respect, that's freaking bad. That's a bad move. What are you doing, my friend? What are you doing? So the language framework hopefully provides a lot of clarity there, but that's so, so important in your business venture. And for me, when I look back, I joined the Fit Body Bootcamp brand. One, I wanted a brand, I wanted support, but I wanted coaching. And yes, as I mentioned earlier, the amount of support and structure in the last decade has just been incredible that we continue to add value to. But at the end of the day, even in the very beginning years, there was structure, there was support, there was coaching, predominantly led by the business coach, Fernando, and then also Bedros, who is just a massive figure in our space, who's had literally decades of experience and one of the best fitness experts and coaches around. So it just made sense for me to seek the counsel of someone who'd been there and done that. And my friend, I was right, and I want you to be right as well, which is why I'm so passionate about making sure that you hire a coach or hire an organization, a business organization that can help you and support you specifically on what you want to learn in the industry that you're in. And for me, that's made all the difference. And my friend, I know that will make all the difference for you. So to recap the 4 major points before you just go out and launch a business that you could be doing now in preparation for that next launch is, number 1, figure out what your passion is, follow that passion, ensure that your business is around a passion-based business. You'll be able to overcome so many more obstacles throughout the journey. Number 2, you have to learn, you have to value, you have to have a healthy respect for direct sales, for marketing and salesmanship. And these are skills that can be learned. So start learning these skills now. There's an incredible amount of books and resources that you can learn. Dan Kennedy, when comes to my mind, is probably the OG of direct response marketing. So I highly recommend some of his content. Number 3, decide what problem you want to solve and who you want to solve it for. Okay, get crystal clear, because otherwise, if you just start throwing out product and service and marketing message to the world, And if it doesn't make sense or doesn't resonate with a specific type of audience, you're going to feel frustrated and your business is going to fail. And that's what I do not want you to do. So ensure you know that. And lastly, success leaves clues. Hire a business coach. Hire someone who's been where you want to go as a guide that will time shrink. Woo! If I could do that correctly with my mic here, that will time shrink your success. And that's been super successful for me, and that's what I want for you. So that in mind, friend, this is the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and give this video a like. That would mean a lot to me and our team. And remember, no one is coming to save you. You must save yourself, and the time is now. Thanks, my friends. We'll see you in the next episode.